Hello, on today's episode on Growing with Stadia, we will be exploring my journey with how I rediscovered PDHPE and what it really aims to promote. So, personal development, health, and physical education allow students to really navigate their surroundings, friendships, health, and well being. So, on the NESA PDHPE K to 6 rationale, it discusses how students should develop a sense of resilience and learn to interact respectfully with others. It also provides students to understand the value of movement, health, safety, and behaviors. So I think resilience and respect, relationships, and behaviors are really things that are critical for K to 6 students to be exposed to because resilience is something we all need to take on until the end of our journey. We utilize resilience in our private and social spheres. And I think that other KLAs beyond PDHPE just really lightly brush through resilience and your behaviors and the way that you need to interact with other people. So it's really important that students are having an opportunity to be exposed to a subject that dedicates entirely to mental well-being, physical well-being, and just generally your inner self. So the NESA PDHPE objectives states that they want students to strengthen their well-being and participate in physical activity. It also suggests that students are to develop a sense of self-management skills that enable students to take responsibility for their actions and emotions, and generally just having an appreciation of a healthy, safe, and active lifestyle. So, definitely important objectives and aims for the PDHPE syllabus. So, prior to attending tutorials, being exposed to PDHPE concepts as an adult, I had no idea that PDHPE had such a deep and meaningful sense of concepts that build up the whole syllabus. So, there's this technique or this teaching approach called the game sense approach. So, the way that I have understood it is it's a technique that promotes inclusiveness and gives teachers opportunities to differentiate their sport lessons based on their students' abilities. So, every child moves differently and plays differently, views and learns things differently. So, I think that differentiation is so important during other KLAs. So, why isn't it being accommodated or applied to PDHPE? So, Williams et al. In 2022 supports my interpretation of the game sense approach. So, literature discusses that teachers should guide their players' responsibilities, and games should be explicit to learning outcomes, and teachers should be mindful of how learners should be positioned. So, clearly, my experience, I was always positioned in areas in sport where I actually didn't know how to play properly, or I wasn't really someone that was reliable on shooting the score or striking a goal. So I always felt like I was positioned in places where I was vulnerable, and a lot of students around me could have a chance to kind of not bully me, but in a sense kind of let me down, like, oh, you've missed that goal, typical. So just comments like that. So it's definitely important that teachers differentiate and position students based on their capabilities and their skills and strengths. So, an outcome from the PDHPE syllabus for stage 2, so PD 211, focuses on combination of concepts and movements. So students are expected to perform and refine their movement skills. So the game sense approach allows teachers to really ensure that all students somehow meet the criteria. So to apply the game sense approach for my example is different sport rotations can range from simple to complex activities. So this will allow all students to use their locomotor skills that fits to their needs. So Light et al. Suggests that providing a quality learning environment involves providing challenges that are achievable. This lets students have control over how they learn. So I think setting students up for realistic goals and achievements is really an important factor of the game sense approach. So I think ensuring that you understand your students' capabilities and providing them opportunities to practice the skills that they've learned and have time to also excel and grow during PDHPE lessons is critical to the game sense approach and what its purpose is really is. Okay, so moving along through the episode, I really want to dedicate some time to talk about my reflection on my experience in PDHPE during university. So during week one, our introduction week, we had a couple of icebreakers that were really interesting and really fun. So we um, participated in an Amazon dance, which allowed all of us to take a minute to just really let loose and just move our bodies. So it was a range of locomotor and non locomotor movements. So clapping, tapping, moving side to side, swaying back and forth. So just the range of movements. We also had a bingo icebreaker, which allowed everyone to kind of get to know each other very briefly. So it was like, you'd have to find a partner that shared similarities, whether it be hair color, eye color, age, birthday month. So it was really interesting and it was really fun. So Jerkowitz 2022 talks about icebreakers being really good tools that help reduce anxiety and promote social components. So a lot of pre-service teachers or people in their adolescence, I guess, experienced a bit of anxiety around PDHPE and teaching PDHPE. So I think that it was important that our tutor had provided us with icebreakers. A large focus of the week one tutorial was straying away from competitiveness in sports during school settings. So it's really important for teachers to really reshape or mold students to kind of move away from understanding sports as just something to be like a winning or losing kind of opportunity or determining like who's better than the other. I think teachers really need to really incorporate that into the PDHPE setting. So I think week three was also a really exciting tutorial because it was my first time really quotation marks in a school sport again after high school. So all the pre-mini work warm-up games were enjoyable, and it really let us all remember, or like it was kind of nostalgic for everyone in the tutorial. So this tutorial really made me reflect on how a teacher can really make or break a student's experience with physical education. It also made me professionally develop and reflect on how I would structure sports. So now I'm a casual teacher, so I'm really more considerate and aware of how sports may impact students in the classroom. I try to refrain from girls versus boys competitions or letting two students stand up and choose their teams. There's just pros and cons to it because I feel like the cons is when students pick their teams, they kind of choose their classmates based on their abilities and their skills. So I feel like no one should feel left out or judged because of their abilities to move or their skills that they have in sports. So Wooden Butler in 2022 says, yes, sports is a competitive component, but it should not be idolized to the point where students are physically and emotionally impacted. So week four was another sports prac tutorial. So I definitely burnt a good number of calories in this tutorial, a lot of running, a lot of relays, a lot of like chasing after your classmates, catching and tossing balls. So this tutorial was definitely more comfortable. We were all familiar at this point. This lesson really aimed to focus on coordination, movement, and teamwork. So during relay racing, it was really evident that you needed to have teamwork and strategies and sportsmanship to ensure that if you wanted to really win, that you would win. So my team definitely focused on just enjoying the moment and cheering each other on, even if we dropped the baton, like it's all right, pick it up and move on. So I think the value of sportsmanship and teamwork is very important in the PDHPE lessons, especially for K to 6. Even though if you're against your teammates, I feel like, or your friends, I feel like you should still be a good sport. So week 6, we focused on sexual education. Now, this was an extremely interesting tutorial. So this lesson kind of differentiated what sexuality education is. So it's not just about sex, it's about focusing on identity, love, and relationships. And this is what Chung et al. 2021 discusses. So everyone was so engaged in this tutorial. I think everyone was more concerned about sexuality education because of the way that the media and external opinions have diluted the topic. It is definitely now clear to me that there is a large spectrum of teaching sexual health, from students knowing about their body and discussing how their body changes over time, and even just identifying what is a private part of your body and what's a public part of your body. So I went home that day and immediately discussed the entire unit with my family, because my family was definitely a bit more standoffish about the topic. So I told my sister, who's a mother, that she should definitely allow my nephews and nieces to attend these lessons once they have arrived in their classrooms. So it definitely gave me a lot of confidence and assurance that I can handle teaching a sexuality education lesson and professionally handle any issues that students may have with their changes in their body and going through puberty. I think that it also allowed me to kind of keep my eyes open and my ears open for things that students may say in the classroom, or things that might be red flags in the classroom, or things that need to be reported in the classroom. So it was very important for me as a teacher and as a casual teacher to be exposed to this tutorial. So, for my overall reflection during my 6 weeks at uni being exposed to PDHPE, I learned that PDHPE is more than just kicking a ball or running. There's really intention behind each outcome. I've also learned that physical education and physical health discusses almost all aspects of the human body and mind. So, throughout my participation this semester, I've extracted many important things that I will implement in my teaching pedagogy. So, students should feel safe and welcomed when participating in sports. This relates to the health, well-being, and relationship strand. So, students should build respectful relationships and manage challenges that can occur in and outside of the classroom. So, literature also discusses that teachers need to really modify exercises that suit students' physical body shape, be aware of the classroom's social hierarchy, and listen to feedback provided by students. And this is extracted from a text written by Tinning in 2020. So I think listening to feedback is extremely important, and just listening to the conversations that students have with one another after a PDHPE lesson, whether it may be a theory lesson or a prac lesson. It's extremely important because feedback allows teachers to really reflect, change, and alter any changes that need to be made in the upcoming lessons. So, from the get go, I think students should limit exposure to purely competition and understand that sports can be utilized as a stress relieving strategy. So, a lot of students don't realize that sports and movement is a amazing tool to release stress, emotions, any sorts of unwanted feelings. So, I think dedicating some time during theory to discuss that, okay, for the next lesson we are going to have a sport lesson, but this lesson will have intention, and the intention or objective will be using the movement and using the opportunity to release all the built up energy or stress that's inside your body. So having a range of sport and movement activities that also include dance to broaden the range of movement and enhance performance. So allowing a variety of sports can allow students to develop confidence and competence in physical activity. So I think, again, allowing um, a range of activities. So in school, in primary school, I was always playing the same old sports and the same old rotations. I think really exposing students to the variety of activities and movements and the dance that we have as well will engage students and also allow them to build confidence throughout their journey. So, all students can eventually find the sport or the activity that they enjoy the most and excel in that activity or perfect that activity. So, I think building that confidence through a variety of sports really does impact the way students feel and the way that they appreciate living that healthy lifestyle as well. Because at the end of the day, PDHPE aims to promote an overall healthy and clear mind. Um, Ending. So I think that if teachers redirect pre assumptions that students have between sport and things that they learnt along the way, it will definitely impact the overall class reaction and engagement. So, this is at we have reached basically the end of my podcast. I hope that you have enjoyed and learnt something from this podcast. I definitely recommend PDHPE to all pre service teachers. I think that we should all just join in and kind of redirect our own personal emotions and experiences. So, I think that PDHPE should definitely be a KLA that is appreciated and practiced just as much as we do for other units. I think that PDHPE has so much opportunities and so much growth for students to participate in. So, thank you so much for listening.